Welcome to the Electronic Church of Arizona. Today our little study is going to be about the cross. A couple of weeks ago I gave you a little sermon on Christmas, the greatest story never told. Then last week I gave you a little sermon on Christ's birthday. Today we're going to have one on the cross. It's talking about Christ's death. And I think all three of them fit together pretty good. So with that, brethren, let's get right into our little study of the cross. When studying about the cross, we start looking into Matthew chapter 10 and verse 38. And by the way, brethren, I suggest you write all the chapter and verses down that we give you here so that you can go back and study the whole context at your own leisure. You can use the pause button that's found below the video, brethren, to start and stop this little study as you go along so that you can open up your Bible and read chapter and verse with us. Let's restart again about the cross. When studying about the cross, we start looking into Matthew chapter 10 and verse 38. And he that is taking not his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. Cross in Strong's Concordance in the Greek is G4716, and the word is stauros, S-T-A-U-R-O-S. From the base comes from the Greek 2476. It's a stake or a post as set upright, a pole, an instrument of capital punishment, exposure to death, an atonement for Christ, the cross. In Matthew 16:24, if any man come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Same word above, stauros. The same stauros is used 28 times in 28 verses. Now let's look at another word for capital punishment instrument, and that is tree. In Acts chapter 5 and verse 30, the God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom you slew and hung on a tree. That is the Greek G3586, and the word is Xulon, Zalon, from another form of the base of G3582, and it means timber as fuel or material. By implications, it's a stick, club, or tree, or other wooden articles or substance, a staff or stock, tree, wood. This is used 3 times in the New Testament, Acts 10:39 and Galatians 3 and verse 13. So far as we see, nothing of the crossbeam on this stake. In the Greek can we find nothing that even resembles the stake that we hear of today. We are told that this punishment instrument, cross, was not used in the Old Testament. This is true. The cross is not used, but the killing instrument was. In Joshua chapter 8 and verse 29, and the king of Ai was hanged on a tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree and cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raise thereup on a heap of stones, which remaineth unto this day. Tree is the Hebrew H6086, and the name is ETS, or EITS, from Hebrew 6095, a tree, from its firmness. Hence, wood, plural, sticks, carpenter, gallows, have, pine plank, staff, stalk, stick, stalk, timber, tree, wood. In Esther 2, chapter 2 and verse 23. And when the inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out, therefore they should be both hung on a tree. And it was written in the book of Chronicles before the king, the same word eights as above. Here you see that this is the same kind of mention in the New Testament. But just what is the stake? To find this, we have to stay in the Old Testament. We will look at the word grove, Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 21. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee. What is this grove of trees? In the Hebrews 8:42, it's Azerah, Ashera, pronounced ASH-AY-RAW, Azerah. From the Hebrews 8:33, it means happy. Azra, as Astar, Easter, a Phoenician goddess, also an image of the same. Grove, H6253. This also we will find just what this Asherah is and represents. This grove is used 17 times in 17 verses in the Old Testament. This will I'll leave up to you to check out your concordance and found how they were used. They were all used to worship Semiramis, the Queen of Heaven. Jeremiah chapter 44 and verse 19. And when we burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out our drink offerings unto her, we did make her cakes, that's cross buns, to worship her and pour out drink offerings to her. This used 5 times in 5 verses. Please check them all out. What has this to do with the cross? We're coming to that. In Acts chapter 19 and verse 24, for a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Dinah, Azareth, brought no small gain unto the craftsmen. Acts chapter 19, verse 35. And when the town clerk, who appeased the people, he said, You men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshipper of the great goddess Diana, cross the Azura, and of the image which fall down from Jupiter? Who was this Diana? Semiramis, the wife, mother of Nimrod, who with another name in another language is Tammuz, in Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 14, the sun god. You know his sign was the cross, and Diana was a sign of the phallus. We see this on a lot of churches around the country. The statue of Diana with the cross on top. They call it a steeple, and we have no idea where it come from. This phallus is what Christ was crucified on. Remember, Christ was put on that phallus, naked, no cloth to cover him. Ever ask why? And this is what I found in the Bible when studying the cross. It makes me sick to even say it. This is what I found long before I found that I will copy from a book. After this, makes up your mind. For in Romans chapter 14 and verse 12, so then every one of us shall give account to himself, to God. The Greek word rendered cross in many modern Bible versions, torture stake, the NW astaros, a classical Greek word meant merely an upright stake or pale. Later, It came to be used as an execution stake having a cross piece. This Imperial Bible Dictionary acknowledges this, saying the Greek word for cross, stauros, properly signified a stake, an upright pole, or a piece of paling on which anything might be hung, or which might be used as impaling fence in a piece of ground, fence posts. Even among the Romans, the crux, which our crosses divide, appears to have originally an upright pole, edited by P. Fairbairn, London, 1874, Volume 1, page 376. Was that the case in correction in the execution of God's Son? It is noteworthy. The Bible uses the word xylon to identify the device used. The Greek English lexicon by Lindell and Scott defines this as meaning wood cut and ready for use, firewood, timber, etc. Piece of wood, log, beam, post, cudgel, club, stake on which criminals were impaled, or live wood tree. It also says in the New Testament of the cross, the cities, Acts chapter 5 and verse 30, and in chapter 10 and verse 32 as examples, the Oxford 1968 paragraph page 1191 and 1192. However, in these verses, the King James Revised Version, the JB, and the Dye translated xylon as a tree. Compare this rendering with Galatians chapter 3 and verse 13 and Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22 through 23. The book The Non-Christian Cross by J.D. Parsons, London, 1896. There is not a single sentence in any of the numerous writings forming the New Testament which in the original Greek bears even indirect evidence to the effect that the stauros was used in the case of Jesus was other than an ordinary stauros, much less to the effect that it consisted not of one piece of timber, but of two pieces nailed together in the form of a cross. It is not little misunderstanding upon the part of our teachers who translated the word stauros, to cross, when rendering the Greek document of the church into our native tongue, and to support that action by putting the cross in our lexicon as the meaning of stauros, without carefully explaining that it was, at any rate, was not the primary meaning of the word in the days of the apostles, did not become its primary signification until long afterwards, and became so then, if at all, only because, despite the absence of corroborating evidence, it was for some reason or other assumed that the particular stauros upon which Jesus was executed had any particular shape. Paragraph 32, verse line 24. See also the Companion Bible, London, 1885, appendix number 162. This is the weight of the evidence indicates that Jesus died on an upright stake and not on the traditional cross, that you can learn the truth. What was the historical origins of Christendom's cross? Various objects dating from the period long anterior to the Christian era have been found, marked with crosses of different designs in almost every part of the Old World. India, Syria, Persia, and Egypt have as yielded numerous examples. The use of the cross as a religious symbol in pre-Christian times and among non-Christian people may probably be regarded as the most universal, and in very many cases it is connected with some form of nature worship. The Encyclopedia Britannica, 1946, volume 6, page 753. He shaped the two-beam cross as its origin in ancient Chaldea and were used as a symbol of the god Tammuz, being the shape of the mystic Ptah, the initial of his name, in that country and in adjacent lands, including Egypt. By the middle of the 3rd century AD, the churches had either departed from or transvested certain doctrines of the Christian faith in order to increase the prestige of the apostles' ecclesiastical system. Pagans were received in the churches apart from regeneration by faith and were permitted largely to retain their pagan signs and symbols. Hence, the Taw or the T in its most frequent form, and in the cross piece lowered, was adopted to stand for the cross of Christ. The Explanatory Dictionary of the New Testament Words, London, 1962, W. E. Vine, page 256. It is strange, yet unquestionably a fact, that the ages long before the birth of Christ, and since then in the lands untouched by the teaching of the church, the cross has been used as a sacred symbol. The Greek Bacchus, the Tyrian Tammuz, and the Chaldean Bel, and the Norse Odin were all symbolized by their votaries by the cruciform device. The cross in ritual, agriculture, and art, London, 1900, G.S. Tyak, page 1. The cross in the form of the cross anza was carried in the hands of the Egyptian priests and Pontus kings as a symbol of their authority as priests of the sun god, and was called the sign of life, the worship of the dead. London, 1904. Pardon me, I felt that coming on for a while. Might be to do it again. Colonel J. Garnier, page 220. Yeah, take a drink of water, maybe to help. Colonel J. Garner, page 226. Various figures of the crosses were found everywhere on the Egyptian monuments and tombs, and are considered by many authorities as a symbolical either of the phallus, a representation of the male sex organ, or the coiton in Egyptian tomb. The cross on a cross with a circle on the handle. And what church denomination do you find carrying a cross around that has that circle on top? It's found side by side with the phallus. A Short History of Sex Worship, London, 1940. H. Kuttner, page 16 and 17. See also the non-Christian cross, page 183. These crosses were used as symbols of the Babylonian sun god, circle with the circle in the middle, and the first seen on a coin of Julius Caesar in 144 BC, and then on a coin of Constantine. The most frequent symbol is the two X's over the other with a P on top. But the same symbol is used without the surrounding circle, and with the four equal arms, vertical and horizontal. And this was a symbol specially venerated as a solar wheel. It should be stated that Constantine was a sun worshiper and would not enter the church till some quarter of a century after the legend of his seeing such a cross in the heavens. The Companion Bible, Appendix number 162. See also the Non-Christian Cross, pp. 133 until 141. Is veneration a supernatural practice? In 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 14, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. An idol is an image or symbol that is an object of intense devotion, veneration, or worship. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 4 states, thou shalt not bow down unto any graven image or likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Notice that God commanded his people not even to make an image before which people would bow down. Of interest is this comment in the New Catholic Encyclopedia. The representation of Christ's redemptive death on Golgotha does not occur in the symbolic art of the first Christian centuries. The early Christians, influenced by the Old Testament prohibition of graven images, were reluctant to depict even the instrument of the Lord's Passion. 1967, Volume 4, page 486. Concerning the first century Christian history of the Christian church says, there is no use of the crucifix and no material representation of the cross. New York, 1897. J.F. Hurst, Volume 1, page 366. Does this really make a difference if a person cherishes a cross as long as he does not worship it? How would you feel if one of your dearest friends was executed on the basis of false charges? Would you make a replica of the instrument of execution? Would you cherish it, or would you rather shun it? In ancient Israel, unfaithful in Israel wept over the death of the false god Tammuz. And some say Tammuz, however you want to pronounce it. The Lord, the Eternal One, spoke of what they were doing as being a detestable thing. Ezekiel chapter 8, verses 13 and 14. According to history, Tammuz was a Babylonian god, and the cross was used as his symbol. From its beginning in the days of Nimrod, Babylonian was against the Lord, the Eternal One, an enemy of true worship. Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 through 10. Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 29. So by cherishing the cross, a person honoring a symbol of worship that is opposed to the true God, as stated in Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 17. Apostate Israel also thrust out the shoot of the Lord's nose. He viewed it detectable and offensive. Why this shoot sometimes commemorates, explains the representation of the male sex organ used in phallic worship. Some kiss the cross just under the nose. How then would the Lord view the use of the cross, which we have seen was anciently used as a symbol of phallic worship? Does your church use the cross, or however you want to put it? Some churches use it with a circle on the top. We just explained that it was the quotient. That's the female sex organ. The cross itself, it says, is a phallic symbol, a symbol of the male sex organ. I could go way deeper into that, but I don't think I better. Does your church sing the songs? I know the group I go to have a song once in a while that mentions the cross. I refuse to say the cross. It's a stake, a crucifixion stake, not a sun worship item for me. Now that is up to you. You are responsible for yourself, not the church, not me, not some other minister, but you. Study it yourself and see what you come up with. Well, brethren, that's all we're going to have for this week. You all have a great and wonderful week. I know I will. And God willing, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.